saw the crystal glass slip from her hand as if time had slowed just for me. Dark red wine spilled across the ivory tablecloth, spreading like a wound opening in real time. My mother-in-law's confident expression vanished in less than 3 seconds, replaced by something pale and terrified. "Said he Malenkov?" I asked quietly, in flawless Russian. "What did you just say?" she whispered. The silence that followed was so heavy I could hear my pulse in my ears. My father-in-law's knife hit his plate with a sharp metallic clang. Across the table, my wife, Yelena, looked like she had just seen a ghost take a seat beside us. But I'm moving too fast. Let me go back 6 hours. My name is Daniel Park. Until that October evening, I believed I had a solid marriage. 3 years with Yelena Morozova. We met at a cybersecurity summit in Montreal. She was brilliant, elegant, ambitious. We built what I thought was a stable life together in our Markham home. Good careers, shared routines, a 2-year-old son named Noah. Her parents, Victor and Irina Morozov, had immigrated from Russia when Yelena was a teenager. They owned a lucrative international logistics company operating between Eastern Europe and Canada. Wealthy, influential, always courteous toward me, but never warm. There was always something behind their smiles, something measuring. What none of them knew was that I had lived in St. Petersburg for nearly 5 years. Corporate risk analysis, high-level negotiations. I didn't just speak Russian. I understood it. Every nuance, every insult disguised as politeness. I never mentioned it to Yelena. There had never been a reason. And maybe, if I'm honest, I liked having something that was entirely mine. A quiet advantage. The dinner invitation came suddenly. "My parents are hosting associates Thursday. It would mean a lot if you came." The way she avoided eye contact should have been my first warning. Thursday night arrived. Their estate in Thornhill was lit like a private resort. Inside were 3 couples and 1 man introduced as Andrei Volkov, a consultant visiting from Moscow. We sat around a massive dining table that could seat 15. I was placed between Andrei and Mrs. Sokolova. Yelena sat between her parents across from me. At first, everything was polite. English conversation, business pleasantries. Then, slowly, they shifted. Russian flowed across the table like a private current. They assumed I couldn't follow. I smiled, nodded, listened. "He's simple," Mrs. Sokolova said in Russian, glancing at me, "but useful." "Yelena needed stability for the citizenship process," Victor replied calmly while cutting his steak. My grip tightened around my fork. Irina leaned closer to Andrei. "The boy looks more like you every month." My heart stopped. Andrei gave a small smile. "He has my eyes." Yelena spoke next, still in Russian, not looking at me. "Andrei will visit next Thursday. Daniel works late that day." The room felt like it tilted. They continued, discussing my work schedule, discussing how convenient it was, discussing how once the divorce happened, I wouldn't fight, discussing how Noah would stay with his real family. The word real echoed, every sentence cut cleaner than any blade. I remained perfectly still. Then Irina turned to me sweetly in English. "You are very quiet tonight, Daniel. Is the food not good?" That was the moment. I could pretend, leave quietly, confront Yelena later, or I could end the performance right there. I chose fire. I took a slow sip of wine and replied in effortless Russian, "The food is excellent. I was just admiring how honest people become when they think they're speaking privately." The glass slipped from Irina's hand. Red spilled across white linen, exactly like the beginning of a crime scene. Victor stared at me. "You speak Russian?" "I lived in St. Petersburg from 2014 to 2019, I said evenly. "Nevsky Prospect, beautiful winters." Yelena had gone ghost white. I switched to English. I heard everything. No one denied it. I looked directly at Yelena. "Is Noah mine?" Silence. Then a whisper. "No." The word didn't feel real. "Andrei is his biological father," she added. The air left my lungs, but my voice stayed steady. "So I was the passport, the stability, the safe Canadian husband?" No response. I stood. "I'll be filing for divorce and custody." Victor's expression hardened. "You will lose." "We'll see," I said, and I walked out.
The parking lot was freezing. I sat in my car for almost an hour before calling my friend Michael, a family attorney. By morning, I had the best litigation lawyer in Toronto. Within days, divorce papers were filed, citing fraud and misrepresentation. Yelena countered, seeking full custody. The hearings were brutal. DNA confirmed Andre was Noah's biological father, but biology wasn't the only factor. I was on the birth certificate. I had raised him since birth. I handled daycare, doctor's visits, bedtime stories, nightmares about monsters in the closet. Canadian family law recognizes de facto parenthood, and fraud does not play well in court. When the judge delivered the decision months later, the courtroom was silent. Primary custody awarded to me. Yelena granted supervised visitation initially, later expanded. Andre's petition for paternal rights denied due to deception and minimal involvement. Irina muttered furious Russian under her breath as security approached. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow and relieved and heartbroken all at once. The months after were difficult. Noah adjusted better than I did. Children adapt when they feel safe. Yelena eventually relocated west with Andre. She sees Noah during scheduled holidays. We communicate by email only. Her parents sent a legal notice threatening defamation action if I damaged the family reputation. My lawyer responded simply, "My client will speak truthfully about his own life." We never heard from them again. Noah is 4 now. He loves dinosaurs and space rockets. He insists on 2 bedtime stories instead of 1. He still calls me Dad, because I am. Not by blood, by presence, by choice, by every 3 a.m. fever, every scraped knee, every nightmare about monsters in the closet. I'm teaching him Russian. He thinks it's just another cool language. Someday I'll explain why it mattered. How understanding every word at that dinner changed everything. How being underestimated saved us both. Sometimes I think back to that moment. The wine spreading across white fabric, the shock in their eyes. It was the death of the life I thought I had. But it was also the beginning of the life built on truth. Noah is calling me now. He wants me to check under his bed for monsters. Some responsibilities don't require translation, and some bonds don't require DNA.
Part 2 of the rewritten story. The first night Noah slept in the house without Elena felt unreal. The silence was different, not peaceful, heavy. I stood in his doorway longer than necessary, watching him breathe. His small hand was curled around the stuffed astronaut I had bought him last Christmas. The nightlight cast soft stars across the ceiling. He shifted in his sleep. "Dada." One word, and everything inside me hardened into something unbreakable. Whatever this war became, I would not lose him. The weeks after the temporary custody order were strategic, calculated. I learned quickly that divorce isn't emotional, it's procedural. Elena's legal team was aggressive, expensive, ruthless. They tried to frame me as unstable, controlling, vindictive. They submitted affidavits claiming I had explosive reactions and had created an unsafe emotional environment. My lawyer, Rebecca Sloan, dismantled it line by line. Employment records showing stability, psychological evaluation, voluntarily completed, showing no risk factors, testimony from Noah's daycare about my consistent involvement, medical records listing me as primary contact. Then came the financial review. That's when things got interesting. The down payment on our house? 70% transferred from an account Elena had claimed was her personal savings. Except Rebecca traced the funds. They originated from a shell corporation tied to Victor's import company, which was under quiet investigation for irregular customs declarations. Rebecca looked at me across her desk. "They're not just fighting for custody," she said calmly. "They're protecting a larger structure." Meaning? If fraud in your marriage is proven in open court, immigration authorities could re-examine everything. And if financial irregularities surface, it won't stay a family matter. Suddenly, their desperation made sense. This wasn't about pride, it was about exposure.
2 weeks before the final custody hearing, Elena requested a private meeting. Public cafe, neutral ground. She looked thinner, exhausted. "I never meant it for it to go this far," she said quietly. "That's interesting," I replied, "because it feels like it was always going this far." She stared at her coffee. "It started before I met you. Andre and I were together. He couldn't get a visa. My parents were panicking about my status here. They said marriage would solve everything." "So you found a solution." Her eyes filled, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or frustration. "I didn't expect to care about you." That almost hurt more than the confession. "Was any of it real?" I asked. She hesitated. "That's not a simple question." It was simple to me, but I didn't press. Instead, I leaned forward. "If you try to take Noah out of the country, I will treat it as international kidnapping. There will be Interpol notices before your plane lands." She studied me carefully. "You've changed." "No," I said. "I stopped being naive." The final hearing stretched over 2 days. Andre testified. He claimed he had intended to eventually come forward and build a relationship with his son. Under cross-examination, Rebecca asked him one simple question. "How many pediatric appointments have you attended?" Silence. "How many nights have you stayed with the child alone?" Silence. "How many diapers have you changed?" The courtroom was very quiet. Andre's answers were either vague or non-existent. When I testified, I didn't talk about betrayal. I talked about routine. Breakfasts, bedtime rituals, favorite songs, how Noah refuses to eat crusts, how he lines up toy cars by color. The judge listened, really listened. When the ruling came, it was measured and precise. Primary custody, Daniel Park. Shared but structured visitation, Elena Morozova. Petition for immediate paternal rights, denied. The reasoning was clear. Parenthood is demonstrated through consistent presence and emotional investment. Biology alone does not override an established parental bond. I didn't look at Elena when it was read. I couldn't. 3 months later, the Morozovs quietly sold their Thornhill estate. Their logistics company downsized Canadian operations. There were rumors of federal audits. I never asked questions. I didn't need to. My responsibility was smaller now and more important. Life became about structure. Daycare drop-offs, work from home Fridays, grocery lists with dinosaur-shaped pasta, laundry at midnight. Sometimes Noah would ask, "Why doesn't Mama live here?" I'd kneel down. "Because sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, but we both love you." He'd nod, satisfied with that answer. For now. Children don't need the full truth. They need stability. A year passed. I started therapy. Not because I was falling apart, because I didn't want to become hard. Bitterness is easy. Healing is intentional. Trust came slower. Dating felt like walking on thin ice. But slowly, cautiously, I allowed myself to believe not everyone operates with hidden agendas. One evening, Noah was playing with blocks when he suddenly looked up. "Dada, what does Pravda mean?" I froze. "Why do you ask?" "Because Mama said it once." I smiled gently. "It means truth." He considered that. "I like truth." "So do I said softly, and I meant it. Sometimes I still see that moment in my mind. The wine falling, the colors spreading, the sound of silverware hitting porcelain. That was the night I lost a marriage. But it was also the night I claimed my son. Not by blood, by choice. And every night when Noah calls out because he thinks there's a monster in the hallway, I walk into his room without hesitation. Because monsters don't scare me anymore. I've already met them at a dinner table.
2 years passed before the past tried to knock on my door again. Literally. It was a Tuesday evening in early spring. Noah was in the living room building an elaborate Lego spaceship while narrating a dramatic alien invasion storyline.
The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, Andrei Volkov stood there, alone. Older, thinner. The confidence he once carried like expensive cologne was gone. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "I emailed," he said finally. "I don't check messages from unknown addresses," I replied calmly. He glanced past me into the house. "I just want to talk." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "You have 5 minutes." He nodded, swallowing hard. "They're under investigation," he said quietly. "The company, Victor. There are financial charges coming." I didn't react. "And Elena?" I asked. "She's not handling it well." That told me everything. "What does that have to do with me?" He hesitated. "I want to know my son." The word felt strange coming from him. My son. "You had your chance," I said evenly. "You chose deception instead." "I was told it was temporary," he snapped, frustration cracking through. "That she would leave you after citizenship was secure, that I would step in." "And you agreed to that plan." His silence was answer enough. He tried again. "I made mistakes." "Yes," I said. "You did." For a moment, something almost human flickered across his face. "Does he know?" Andrei asked. "Noah knows he's loved. That's all he needs to know right now." "And biologically?" "When he's older," I said firmly. "On my timeline, not yours." Andrei looked toward the house again. "He looks like me." I met his eyes. "He laughs like me." That ended the discussion. I stepped back toward the door. "If you want any legal change, file properly. But don't show up unannounced again." He nodded slowly. Then he walked away. And that was the last time I saw him. 6 months later, the news broke quietly. Viktor Morozov was charged with international trade fraud and money laundering. The logistics empire collapsed almost overnight. Elena moved again, this time without Andrei. Our communication became minimal and strictly about Noah's visitation schedule. The chaos that once surrounded my life was dissolving somewhere far away. But inside this house, there was peace. One evening in late August, I sat on the back deck while Noah chased fireflies across the yard. "Dada!" he yelled. "I caught one." He ran toward me, hands cupped carefully. "Let's see." He slowly opened his fingers. The tiny glow flickered inside his palms. Then it blinked out and flew into the dark. Noah gasped. "It's free!" I smiled. "Yes, it is." He climbed into my lap. "Dada." "Yeah?" "Will you always be my dad?" The question was soft, serious. I didn't hesitate. "Always." He seemed satisfied with that, leaned his head against my chest. In that moment, I understood something completely. Fatherhood is not possession. It's presence. It's not DNA. It's decision. Every single day. When Noah turned 6, I told him a simplified version of the truth. That families can start in complicated ways. That sometimes adults make selfish choices. That love is proven by who stays. He listened carefully, then asked one question. "You stayed, right?" "Yes," I said. "I'm glad," he replied. And that was enough.